Today is January 24th, 2021, and in this video, I will once again be giving an update on how much of the COVID-19 vaccine has been distributed to people across the United States and across the planet. I will be making this video probably at least once a week. This is going to be a recurring kind of video that I'm going to make at least for the next few months while the vaccine starts to get distributed out to people in the United States and across the world. And I think it's a good idea to just talk about how much of this vaccine has been distributed. Since I will be making this video many times per month, these sorts of videos, I will start making these videos shorter because in the past when I did these sorts of videos, I would usually ramble on for quite a long time and the video would end up being 10 to 15 minutes long, but I would prefer to keep the video 5 to 8 minutes long. I think that I can really get everything into this video in just a few minutes if I don't waste time talking about stuff that's only mildly related to what actually I need to be talking about in this video. So from now on, these videos, at least the ones where I talk about the vaccine distribution process and the COVID-19 numbers for the United States and worldwide, these videos will be 5 to 8 minutes long from now on. Tomorrow I think I'm going to make another video talking about the COVID-19 numbers. The number one reason for that is because we are about to hit 100 million cases worldwide. We're right now at 99.8 million worldwide cases since the pandemic began. Since this virus first started spreading to people, there has been at least 99.8 million positive cases of COVID-19. That's just the number of people that have actually tested positive for this virus. 99.8 million people. So tomorrow we're probably going to hit 100 million, so that's why I'm making a video for that tomorrow. But let's talk about the actual vaccine now and how much of that has been distributed. So across the world, over 65.6 million shots have been given. 65.6 million COVID-19 shots have been given in total, and around a third of those were given in the United States. In total, the United States has administered around 22.4 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, the thing about this vaccine distribution process is that it has to be a global effort, because as long as there's people in one country that still have this virus, it has the potential to spread to other countries. That's what happened last year with the original COVID-19 virus. It was only in China for a while, and then it spread to every other country in the planet for the most part throughout the past year. Same thing with the new mutations. There's been several new mutations of this virus. I'll probably talk about that in a future video, but those viruses started out in just one country but eventually spread to many other countries across the planet. So I think it's important that the vaccine distribution process is a global effort. But in terms of the numbers, 65 million shots have been given in total across the world, and the United States has given around a third of those shots, 22.4 million shots of the COVID-19 vaccine. That means that for every 100 people that live in the United States, around 6.8 doses have been administered to people living in the United States. That doesn't necessarily mean that 6.8% of the United States population has received at least one shot of the vaccine. It's actually slightly less than that because of the fact that some people in the United States have already received 2 doses, because the vaccine distribution process has been going on for over a month. So some people have had the opportunity to get both doses of the vaccine. Pfizer and Moderna both require 2 shots of the vaccine in order to be fully protected. So some people have been able to get both shots, but most people who have been vaccinated so far have only gotten 1 shot. And that's why the percentage of the United States population that has been vaccinated is not quite 6.8%. It's slightly less than that. Probably between 5 and 6%, I would estimate the percentage of the United States that's been vaccinated. Maybe closer to 6%. I don't know the exact percentage off the top of my head. But we are making progress, I would say, in terms of the vaccination process. In the past week or so, the number of vaccinations that are being done per day has really increased by quite a bit. Since January 20th, Biden's inauguration day, since January 20th, we have had over 1 million shots given every single day for the past 5 days. So from January 20th to today, January 24th, each of these days has had over a million people getting the COVID-19 vaccine. So that's good news, the fact that this vaccine distribution process has been speeding up recently. At the start, it was a bit slow, and then it started to speed up, and I guess it's sped up a bit more now because we're reaching, we're getting over a million new vaccinations every single day. So that's good news, I would say, that the United States is already at 22 million shots of the COVID-19 vaccine distributed across the United States. And across the world, it's 3 times that amount, so 66 million approximately. I said at the start of the video 65.6 million doses have been given worldwide. So, compared to the number of people that live in the United States has actually received a lot of vaccinations because the United States only makes up around 4 to 5% of the world's population. There's almost 8 billion people in the world at this point, 7.5 or 7.7, I don't remember. It's closer to 8 billion than 7 billion at this point. I don't remember the exact number, but we're reaching 8 billion people on this planet soon, and out of those 8 billion or 7.7 billion, whatever the number is, around 330 million people live in the United States, which is only around 4 to 5% of the world population, but we still received a third of the total vaccinations worldwide. But the United States is also doing very badly in terms of its COVID 19 numbers. I've talked about this in other videos. The United States makes up around a quarter of the total worldwide COVID 19 cases. We're about to reach 100 million worldwide cases, and the United States makes up around 25 million of those cases. So, the United States has not handled the pandemic well by all measures, by all objective measures. The United States has done a terrible job handling the pandemic. If you look at the number of cases per 1 million people or number of cases per 1,000 people, if you look at it from each country, the United States is the seventh worst country in terms of the percentage of its population that is tested positive for COVID-19, meaning that out of the 190 plus countries across the planet, only 6 other countries have had a higher percentage of their population test positive for COVID-19 than the United States. At this point in time, the United States has had over 7% of its population test positive for COVID 19, which means that even more than 7% of the countries actually gotten the virus because not everybody that tests positive not everybody that actually has the virus tests positive because some people just don't get a test, but they still have the virus nonetheless. So, United States doing good in terms of vaccine distribution, doing badly in terms of COVID 19 numbers. By the way, I'm getting all the vaccine distribution data from Bloomberg.com. They have an amazing vaccine tracker that you can look at. And for the COVID 19 numbers, I've been getting all those numbers from Worldometers.com. They also have a nice graphic you can look at. They have a lot of charts, and they also have some graphs where they show the number of cases over time for either a country or a region or even the entire world. So both of those websites are really useful tools to look at if you need to know either how many people have COVID 19 or how many people have gotten the vaccine. So definitely check those two websites out if you haven't already, but if you're watching this video, you probably have seen at least one of these websites by now, if not both, but they're both useful resources. So let's look at the United States now on a state by state basis. That's what I've been doing for these videos, these sorts of videos, looking at which state's doing the best. And it's usually the smaller states, smaller in terms of population. It's usually the states with fewer people that do better because they don't have to vaccinate as many people. States like North Dakota, South Dakota, Alaska, West Virginia, these are all the states that have had the highest percentage of their population vaccinated, and that's mainly because they have less people overall. North Dakota at this point in time has given 9.72 doses per 100 people living in that state. For South Dakota, it's almost as good, 9.09 doses given per 100 people. West Virginia is even better. West Virginia is killing it with 11.47 doses given per 100 people living in that state. And Alaska is also doing even better, actually, in fact. For a while, West Virginia was doing the best, but now Alaska is doing the best with 12.88 doses given per 100 people. That's Alaska. Alaska's absolutely killing it, but that's mainly because they have fewer people. I mean, nobody lives in Alaska. Do you guys know anybody that lives in Alaska? I personally don't. If you do, that's pretty cool, but most people don't. It's one of the smallest states in terms of population. Not in terms of land area, though. That's in terms of land area. Alaska, it's not even close. Alaska's easily number one. New Mexico is also doing well, 9.54 doses per 100 people given in that state. Oklahoma is doing slightly worse, but almost as good, 8.16 doses given per 100 people in Oklahoma. So these states mostly have fewer people, but they're still doing pretty well in terms of the percentage of their population that has been vaccinated. But in terms of absolute numbers, California, Texas, and Florida, and New York, the 4 states with the most people, have also vaccinated the most number of people within those states. No surprise there. Let's look at each country now. Let's see which countries are doing the best in terms of the percentage of the population that has gotten the vaccine. Because I think that that's something we should look at. I don't think I've talked about that in the video before. By far, the country that's doing the best in terms of the vaccination process is Israel. For every 100 people living in that country, 40 doses have been given in that country. In total, they've given around 3.6 million doses to its citizens, which is absolutely amazing. That's around 3 times better than the best state in the United States. Alaska had around 12 doses per 100 people. Israel, an entire country, beats Alaska by over threefold, which is absolutely amazing. Not even close, but in second place, UAE has given 2.5 million doses in total to its citizens, to the people living in that country. So, out of every 100 people that live in the United Arab Emirates, around 23.14 doses have been given. So, that doesn't mean 23.14% of the population of the country has been vaccinated. It means that for every 100 people living in that country, 23.14 doses have been given to people in that country, because some people have received 2 doses already, so that doesn't mean that 23.14% of the population has received the vaccine, because those doses include people who've gotten the second dose already from the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine. So it's not a perfect indicator of the percentage of the population that has gotten vaccinated, but it's a pretty good indicator nonetheless. So Israel by far is in first place, United Arab Emirates second place, but still way ahead of third place. It appears that the United States is in sixth place out of all the countries in the world in terms of the number of doses given per 100 people living in that country. For every 100 people in the United States, around 6.82 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine has been given to people in this country. So United States is in sixth place out of the 190 plus countries in the world, and the reason for that is because most countries most countries across the world are very close to 0% at this point in time. Not many countries have actually been able to distribute many doses of the vaccine. That's a very unfortunate thing. Like I said, the vaccination process needs to be a global effort, because as long as this virus is there in at least one country, it has the potential to spread to other countries. That's what happened with the original COVID-19 virus. That's what happened with the mutations. The thing about COVID-19 mutations is that the more people across the planet that have gotten COVID-19, the higher likelihood it is that a new mutation forms from this virus. The thing about these mutations is that they can only form in people who have actually gotten COVID 19. So if fewer people had COVID 19, then it's less likely for these mutations to form. And that's why it's so important to vaccinate people all across the world, because even if there's just one country where no one has been vaccinated and all those people have gotten the virus, because those people have not been able to get the vaccine, if all those people have gotten the virus, then there's a higher likelihood of a mutation being formed in one of those people living in that country. And what that would mean is that a mutation could potentially form that could evade the vaccine. That could definitely be problematic if the new mutation spreads to other countries, especially if the mutation is able to evade the vaccine. That could be problematic if it spreads to other countries, because then it's the entire pandemic all over again. I will admit, though, that would not be nearly as bad as the original COVID 19 pandemic, because if a new mutation forms from the virus that does evade the vaccine, it actually won't take that long for these vaccines to be updated to specifically target the new mutation. It's not nearly as long of a process to just update the vaccine to target a new mutation as it is to create an entirely new vaccine for an entirely new disease. I mean, that's what we do with the flu. The flu always mutates, and that's why we have to take the flu vaccine every year, but these companies are able to make these vaccines in a short amount of time that are able to target any mutation that comes along. So a new COVID-19 mutation won't be that problematic for that long, as long as the companies are able to make new vaccines to target that mutation, but it would still be problematic, because until we have the new vaccine and until that new vaccine gets around to people, then the mutation still has the potential to hurt a lot of people if the vaccine for that mutation is not available yet. So that's why I think the vaccination process needs to be a global effort. I went on a long tangent there just now. This is what I was talking about I wanted to try to avoid, but in future videos I'll try to avoid this more, but I would like to keep these videos shorter. I think that, especially for these sorts of videos, if I'm making them like once a week, I don't think there's any need to make them that long, but I thought it was still pretty important to talk about how important it is for the vaccination process to be a global effort. Hopefully, we can continue to vaccinate more countries in the upcoming months. The good news is that it appears that we will soon have more vaccines available to give to people.